Hello everybody, I'm back. My computer's repaired, but I don't want to waste time talking about that. Let's talk about Dune. Before I go on, expect normal content to resume like this week coming up and stuff. Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, so I went to see Dune yesterday. I went with a mate of mine who's kind of, he kind of half read the novel when we were kids, same as me. I mean, I've only read it like I mentioned to some of you guys before. I read it about 3 weeks ago. I actually finished it, so I'm an expert on Dune. And there was two girls there, and obviously they didn't have a clue about it. And then, so in terms of like the company I was with, I was the only one who actually knew what was going on. And it was interesting to talk to people afterwards, what they took from it. Because obviously you guys watching this, you know Dune. You know, you've seen the movie, the old movie as well. Of course, with, our pal here, Mr. Sting. You've seen the old version, you know this, with Fade. But, it was interesting to hear their perspectives on the story in terms of this new version of it. And we'll get into that as I go along. So, in terms of what I thought of it, it was a very, very good approximation of the book, shall we say. But it was very odd. Speaking to other people, I'll see how this conversation goes. I don't know. I haven't done this for a while. Okay, so just bear with me. I'm just coming back to this now. I'm getting back into the swing of things. So, the thing that really got me was talking to people afterwards that they didn't really appreciate the importance of the spice. And looking back on it, I think that's a very important part of the movie that doesn't really, it isn't emphasized as much as you would think. It doesn't really mention the navigators at all. So like as a fan of the novel, as I say, I read it 3 weeks ago, so I'm an expert. That did strike me as odd because obviously if you've read the books, if you've seen the original movie as well, that's very played up in terms of the importance of that. And yeah, speaking to people who don't know the Dune universe, only like sort of, in a very basic way, it was interesting that that didn't come through as important. It was more just like, it's just a fuel, rather than being this thing that keeps human civilization functioning, the importance of it, It was more like, I guess, I'll talk about that in a minute. I mean, I'll get onto that again, because I think that's an interesting point, and I think if you know the universe, if you know the lore, you understand the importance of that, you might get over it, and I think that's probably what I would say about the whole movie. I think it was very much playing to both camps of the true fans, the people who love the books, and I know there's a lot of you guys out there who like, who like that, who know that stuff, and also the newbie coming to it. And I think it did a good job of balancing these two groups of people. So, for instance, it's almost like, so saying Lord of the Rings, they make a lot of adaptation. Like Lord of the Rings is probably the thing to compare it to, and hopefully it is something to compare it to when we get the second movie. The Lord of the Rings movies, they make a lot of chops and changes in order to create a screenplay that can be, presented to the can be put on screen, and anyone can come in. Someone who doesn't understand the universe, the lore, all this, but they can dip into it, and they don't need to understand that. They don't need to understand the Valar and all that sort of stuff. They can dip into it and treat it for what it is. But if you're a fan of the books, and this is how I think Dune does this well, there's enough mentioned that it tricks your brain into thinking that they are covering all the things from the books, even though they're actually probably not. And I think the lack of emphasis on the spice itself is a prime example of this. They don't mention it so much, but they mention it enough that if you're a fan of the books and you know the universe, you kind of think that they have, so because you know this already. So only a little bit, mentioning it a little bit, sort of it assuages you as a fan. So, but that means they don't have to waste time, like in the first movie, explaining, what spice is, or having the navigators represented, because you need to understand that, really. And I think they did a good job of using that as a way of they don't have to concentrate on that in order to create more of a sort of human story that your average normie, no knowledge of Dune, can dip into and appreciate as a sort of a family sort of, this conflict between these two houses. That's what they more concentrated on rather than the sort of bigger things. Now, the throat singing was beastly. Yeah, knife scene with the mate. Yeah, there's some. We'll get onto all these kind of things, and I just wanted to give my general opinion. I think before we delve into things that I liked, and one or two things I think were off, but in general, I think this is like this is a solid 8 or a 7.5, 8, maybe even a 9 for different reasons. But I think it's a solid 7.5, 8 out of 10 for me. I think it's a great version of Dune. But I would say it's a version of Dune, and I think that's the best you can expect from any kind of adaptation, particularly of a book this dense. And as I say, I joke. I only read it 3 weeks ago. I read it when I was younger. I didn't really appreciate it. A lot of the themes that I think they successfully represented in this this movie. Obviously Paul's sort of destiny to be this. What would you say? Like the chosen one. Like they really did a great job of representing it. But I don't want to get too muddled up in terms of what I'm talking about. I want to try and we'll go through the movie sort of stage by stage, I guess, until I get bored, and then I'll go. But I enjoyed the movie. Yeah, it was steampunk. Yeah, it was pretty good, man. June 2021 is a 10/10 for me. Well, fantastic. Good for you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. In this age, when so much of our stuff has been shat on and ruined, the fact that this is as good as it is, and it is good, it is genuinely good, it is surprising. I was expecting terrible things for it. And I will say, I think a lot of these movie studios and stuff have learned the lessons of Star Wars, and I don't want to get into that old debate, but I think we can all agree that they weren't as good as they possibly could be, were they? At the least, let's say. So I think a lot of people have learned the lessons of that, and they've just created a generally accurate and faithful representation of the novel, or at least the first third of the novel, because the amount of stuff they cut out and where it ended, it is very much like, obviously it isn't even halfway through the first novel, and I think they're only going to do 2 parts, so the next book's got a lot of catching up to do. But the chosen one, yeah, well, Muad'Dib. So in terms of the general story, it sticks pretty close. If you've never seen this before, obviously this is going to be spoiler heavy, and I'm probably going to dip into the novel as well. So it sticks pretty closely to the novel, and I think that's to its benefit completely. There is a few order differences. There's a whole thing with Idaho that he seems out of order with me. There's a few things, and I'm not a big fan of that character. And also, again, this is just one of those little gripes. The guy they selected to play Gurney. Now, Gurney to me has always seemed like, when I was reading the book, he seemed like a sort of a jolly but melancholy sort of warrior, poet, musician in the sort of, and obviously the Dune series is obviously drawing off these kind of these themes of sort of medieval Europe and stuff like that, noble houses, feudalism writ large, And Gurney has always struck me as that character, like in the books, one of the first times we're introduced to him, he's got this, what is it, like a sitar or a lute thing, and he plays this and he speaks poetry at times and, poems and songs he sings. Whereas this Gurney was a lot more gruff, right? There's a lot more, I don't know. It didn't ring true to me. That's the only. There's that, and there's Dr. Kine, of course, and that chick. So they replaced the original sort of character of him with this chick, and she just, for me, she was like she lacked the presence required for that character, and that character in itself within the books has been that's the one character. That's the one character. There's the Gurney thing. The actor they've chosen and the way he's decided to play him, for me, doesn't represent Gurney as represented in the books. That might just be my personal take on it. I don't know. But I'll say the Dr. Kine character, they're replacing it with this woman, but she just didn't have the gravitas, she didn't have the energy, she didn't have the mystery about her. But then again, I don't think they gave her character that much. I think they butchered that character, basically, in terms of, and if you've read the books, obviously you know, his plans, his efforts to bring Dune to life, to greenify everything. That feels like it's lacking. It's lacking. That sort of story arc, that part of the story, his knowledge of the Fremen, his relationship with them, all that stuff. It's all been cut out because like in the book, you have these dinner parties, and there's a lot more sort of politicking with the local sort of aristocracy and all that sort of stuff. That's all been cut out of the book, out of the movie, and I can understand why, because you need to get things going, because it is a very slow. I wouldn't say it's slow, but if you were doing it page by page, it would be so slow, and you have to make as a movie maker, as a director, I understand you have to cut the gumph out and stick to the original, the core of the movie. You need to get things flowing. You need energy, you need movement, you need momentum, shall we say? So yeah, that I can understand why some characters kind of got shafted, and that was probably the main one. And again, Gurney himself is just a bit off, and Duncan Idaho, it's like he did a good job, but again, I don't feel like that was the Duncan Idaho from the books, And again, this is the problem when you bring things to the big screen, you get actors playing these roles, and I feel like some of the characters were slightly off. But in terms of Paul, I think the guy who's playing him now, he was in a movie called The King, I think, or something like that on Netflix, about the Battle of Agincourt, and I recommend that. He's a very good Paul. He's young enough to seem young, but he's obviously older than what you would normally think he is. He's got a lot of passion. He's got a lot of intensity, and I think that's just a good representation of Paul. And he plays him well. He's like he knows the character. And in terms of what's to come in the following books, in the following movies, and based on what's going to happen in the novels, I think he'll be a really good. Yeah, he'll really represent Paul Atreides as this leader of this holy crusade across the stars with this, band of barbarian Fremen fanatics, purging the stars of weakness, all that stuff. It's going to be fantastic, and I'm looking forward to the next movie. I didn't think I would, I finished this movie and I'm like, oh really? I walked out of there and I was like, yeah, I am really, really looking forward to the next one. There was some issues like in terms of order and placement, and again some character issues, but in general I think it captured it perfectly. There's the whole thing with where's Fade? Where's Fade? Harkonnen, where is he? Where's Fade? Where's Sting? Where's our boy? Sting, where is he? I didn't see any men walking around in shiny pants. I didn't see it, and I want to see it, and for no reason, just for my own personal fun. And he wasn't there. But you can't have everything, can you? I think in general it's a really good representation. But yeah, I hope we get games. Yeah, we probably will get games. If this is a success, I think this is a really good showing. And I think, to have something like a science fiction thing, especially because we're so saturated with, fantasy crap. And like the Lord of the Rings TV show is going to be awful. I've come to terms with it now. There was hope there. And then, it's going to be terrible. And there's that whole Game of Thrones spin-off that no one cares about. That's going to be dreadful. Game of Thrones is dead. It's dead. It's done. All these things, were done. Like The Expanse was pretty lackluster towards the end. And it's good that something as pure and something as strong and something as good as Dune has been represented in this way. And I was worried it was going to get, because of how things are in the current age, warped and changed. But it wasn't. It was good. It was really good. And it didn't go too heavy on things, but it's all there. It's all there. And I think that's the cleverness of the thing. There's enough there if you're a fan of the book, you clock things and you're like, yeah, okay, cool. I don't need you to explain that to me. I understand it. But it's exciting enough and accessible enough for the normie viewer to get in and view it. Sting can play the Emperor Shaddam V. Yeah, maybe. The Harkonnens were downplayed a bit too much. Just bad guys now, straight up evil anymore. Well, I mean, I'll say one thing, Carl. The perversity and harshness and darkness of the Harkonnens, I don't think was played up enough. I mean, obviously there is complexity there as well. But like, for instance, the Baron, we didn't really get enough time with him at all. I don't think truly representing his character. And But let's get into the thing. I'll just go through the story and the kind of things that I do. I've got a little slideshow, so we can see some interesting stuff as we're going along, and it might help trigger my memory on certain things. So we've got a little slideshow here. We'll get that going on. So there's Sting, obviously, but yeah, the Harkonnen stuff was pretty. I think it was reasonably well represented. Again, it's a story. It's a film. You got 3 hours to represent. I mean, the audio book for the novel is 21 hours long. 21 hours, right, of content, of stories, of characters. So even if this is just half, which it isn't really half, it's about a third of the first novel, but it'll probably just be in 2 parts. But there'll probably be crossover. It depends how successful this one is and the second one, how well they're taken. But I don't know what I was saying. In terms of the Harkonnens themselves, I think they were, for the time that they had to give to them, I think it was reasonable to show them as harsh taskmasters. Because when you get down to like brass tacks now, never mind their culture or individual characters and so on, they're harsh taskmasters essentially, right? And they're loyal people, they're loyal servants of the Emperor, right? The Emperor isn't fearful of them. They're rich, they're wealthy, but the Emperor doesn't fear them. Whereas the Atreides, the Emperor fears them, and they're highly skilled, highly competent, but they're a bit more, I don't want to say humanitarian, and I don't want to say good guys, because they're not, but they're nicer people, right? They're more decent, they're more honourable in the normal way we consider honour and whatever. And those are the core things you take from those from those characters, from those 2 factions within the story, and you get that. I think as a new viewer, as a new consumer of this universe, you get that. You understand this straight away. And that's how the movie starts off in this way, and I think it's relatively accessible. I think, I thought it was a bit heavy on to present people straight away with the voice stuff, without any sort of without any build up. Immediately, she's just having dinner with they're having breakfast together, and they're going straight into practicing the voice, and the Bene Gesserit thing. And it was interesting to go down that route. But let's talk about the Bene Gesserit thing, because I was concerned, and I am still interested how they're going to do this in the second movie, obviously with his sister, and oh, sorry. Well, you shouldn't be here, should you? I said this. So, obviously, with his, with what's to come in the movie, in the second movie, how they're going to cover that sort of psychic thing about this joining of minds and whatnot. Because, although I think it was handled well, I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily appreciate the sort of scale of what's going on there. And the initial meeting with the truth sayer, the witch, and the box and everything like this, and the initial sort of test, I think that was really well represented. I think it was really accurate to the books. And there was a great scene later on, obviously, in the tent, and that's another big moment in the books. It's where he has this sort of spaz out, where his mind goes, because he's off his face on spice. It's triggering that pineal gland in him. And he has the vision of what's to come, of the sort of the courses of fate, where humanity is going down, and he is the fulcrum around which everything is going to move, because he is the culmination of generations of selective breeding to create this, what do you want to say, strong man, you know what I mean, Ubermensch, whatever the fuck you want to say, the one, the chosen one. And he has this vision of how it's going to be, and I liked it in the film. It's not too heavy, and I don't know whether it would make too much sense to the sort of the average viewer if you were watching this and you didn't have that knowledge. I'm not too sure how to take that, because the person I told already, so she understood it. But I don't know whether. Would you think if I hadn't waffled at you about that sort of stuff, them sort of things, would you have understood that straight away? Not necessarily, no. A bit, yeah. It's like touches on it, yeah. But I think that's what it is. Like, for a new viewer, someone who doesn't know the universe, I think it really draws you. I think it says enough without going, getting the Wikipedia out and just going line by line and explaining all the rules of the universe and what's going on. But if you're a fan of it, you're like, yes, this is perfect, this is it. And that scene in the tent for me was great, when he's saying that, I see legions of fanatics, of zealots. I can't remember the exact words. Legions of fanatics and zealots going to war, and they're all shouting my name. And he gets that vision where he's on Caladan, and he's just got this horde beneath him raising their swords to the sky, and he's just watching. You know what I mean? And that's that's the sort of core of Dune. This quest, this holy war, and that's what's coming. Hopefully, I mean, we'll see. But I hope it does get made, and I hope the story continues. I hope the movies are made. But that's the core of Dune, and I think they represented that well. And that was the bit that I was worried about the most. I'm surprised about the lack of emphasis on the spice and all that sort of stuff, and on the navigators and all that sort of stuff. But I guess that's just like the mechanic. I mean, if you look at it like as a screenwriter, if you're trying to adapt this, I guess that is just the mechanics of the universe rather than the sort of the more important stuff, which is the human aspects. There is a Bene Gesserit TV show called The Sisterhood. Are you kidding me? No. Is that a joke? I don't know. The strongest psychic. Yeah, this is the thing, and I think it represented that well. Again, what are the Bene Gesserit trying to do? They're trying to create a mind which can shape space and time like the navigators can, but he doesn't need spice, although spice helps, obviously. But they're trying to create someone, and again, wider politics. I'm not too sure what happens in the rest of the novels because I haven't read Dark Messiah yet. I've only read the first novel. I've got Dark Messiah to come, and I'm going to get through that. I'm really interested in this universe and a lot of the themes and a lot of the sick shit that's in there. It looks badass. But the Bene Gesserit are trying to create this ultimate being, right? That can shape space and time, much like the navigators. And I'm assuming there's some kind of effort on their part to displace or knock down the power of the Navigator Guild. I'm guessing there's some kind of politics that are going to come up regarding that. But that's for the future. I mean, but I think it does a good job. As someone who's read the books, you appreciate it, and someone who's new, you get enough without it getting boring and explainy. But so this, we get the characters, we get them leaving on Caladan. I like the entrance of the Imperial messenger and the signing of the documents, and it gives you the idea, of what's to come. The scale of things, I guess. It starts off in a little room, and I think this is good. This is how to humanise characters. Yeah, so they start off and they're having a little bit of breakfast between mother and son. Then they throw in the psychic voice thing, just out of nowhere. You're not expecting. But then it goes to this grand scale, spaceships floating to Earth, emissaries of the Emperor coming towards this, and, you've got your armies out on parade behind, and it's all very grand and very, formal. And I think it gives you a good idea of what's to come with the stories. It's going to be a human story, but with these grand, vast vistas. And that's what we get. Obviously, there's a lot of character interplay. We get some nice stuff with the shields, and I think the shields were pretty well done. I remember the original version, obviously, with the blocky sort of, 80s, graphics and stuff, which were good at the time, obviously. They're a bit dated now. But how they did the shields was quite good. I did enjoy that. I liked the coloration, how they changed to red when they're being penetrated and stuff. I'm not sure that's something that gets mentioned in the books so much, but I liked that. I liked all that stuff. And again, obviously, as 40k fans, obviously, GW ripped off all this Dune stuff. They stole a lot of the sort of the core elements of the universe. The navigators, the Emperor, the universe, the sort of Imperial governors, all that sort of stuff. It's a lot of the sort of foundational stuff of 40k and the technology level. And a lot of the ideas behind it as well, about the AI rebellion. I mean, that isn't mentioned at all, obviously. If you haven't seen it yet, none of that stuff's mentioned. And I imagine it's going to come up in the next books. So you don't get any mention of the Butlerian jihad against the AI. And of course, we must learn the lessons, because these are not just things that people made up. They are warnings shouted through the ether to receptive minds by friendly spirits in the universe, warning us of the danger of AI. Never forget this. Every book you read, it's the true and accurate message from potential future. This is the truth. And Herbert was one of these avatars of the truth, and he was being given secret knowledge. He's warning us of AI. And where was I? Yeah, so none of that's mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of, like, again, there was lots of things that I was worried about how they would represent. For instance, the Mentets. These sort of, again, which are, as I understand, or at least as I think they are earlier attempts by the Bene Gesserits to create these uber psychers, you know, these powerful minds. But what they just managed to do is create, like, super smart dudes, right? And how they represented him in a very subtle way. I think as a new viewer, you understand that there's something weird about this guy. The guy's eyes flick up as he does, like, a calculation. But you don't need to go into the Mentets are this and as it does in the book. You know, it doesn't have to explain it like that. It gives it in a nice, quick, simple, and interesting way. And you understand this is a smart guy. This is a smart guy, you know? And I think, I mean, would you agree with that as a newbie viewer? Yeah, you got that straight away. Just as a simple plot device, not a plot device, you know, just a way of showing that he's got something different about him. He's not just a fat advisor. He's a genius. He's got something up with him. You know, you don't have to have it explained to you what he is. Now, the one problem is obviously another character that gets butchered in this that we lose all sort of interest in. He doesn't really have anything with him. He's the Harkonnens, the Barons Mentet, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there because obviously in the book, close your ears. In the book, obviously, the Atreides Mentet is captured and turned to the Harkonnens, and he becomes his Mentet. But that in the movie, obviously, he dies, and it's odd. The whole death of Atreides is very odd. I don't know why they did it like that. They could have just done it like in the book, and that would have made more sense. Because it seems just a bit weird that he was hiding, you know, Bram Stoker's Dracula style on the roof, on the ceiling. Like that seemed a bit much, but it was pretty decent anyway. Like that whole scene. But I'm skipping ahead. So, you know, does this capture the sort of feel of Dune? Yeah, it does. It does. Does it have everything you want in there? No, it's not, and it was never gonna. Is it better than anyone could have anticipated? Yes, it is. It is. Is it the best movie of this year? Probably is, to be fair, unless something else comes out that I'm just not aware of. I think it is probably the best movie of the year. And am I looking forward to the next one? I am, completely. But like I said, there's just a few little bits of stuff, but that's just me being, just being picky. Killer Kriegsman, thank you, man. Hope you have a great weekend. You too, dude. I saw you Titan. Well done. The dude's got a Titan. It's just over the top. There's no need for that. You don't need a Titan, dude. I found Paul to be an annoying, entitled, angst-ridden teen. This is great for the teen crowd, but this story needs a more compelling hero. Brad, David K., have you read the book? Because, it's pretty accurate to what's in the book. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is, you know? You take it as you want to take it, but, in terms of the representation of Paul in the book compared to the screen, yeah, he is. That's exactly how he is, and he grows and develops as he goes along. But you got to understand it from this lad's point of view. You know, he's God King. You get me? He's the smartest dude you've ever met. He can literally see the future, bruh. That's gonna make you a bit. I don't know about you, but if I could see the future, and the future changed on the decisions that I made, I'd be a little bit angsty too. But I just mean, in terms of the storybook, he is actually, that is accurate to the character. And I didn't find it that annoying at all. But I feel it's because he is accurate to the character and who the character is. But thank you, Killer Kriegsman, again, man. Thank you, dude. I appreciate that. Paul is a turd in the book. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Watley understands. He's an arsehole. And most of the way through, in fact, he's just got these little moments of genius. I mean, he's a heartless... again, spoilers, when that thing happens to that thing when he's away. I don't know. I don't want to give that many spoilers. When his kid dies, he's not very fucking, he's pretty, you know what I mean? All that, that's pretty heartless because he's not human in the normal way. Or at least he is, but he isn't anymore. His mind is working on a different plane of existence. This is what you have to understand. It's not your normal... he is an Aragorn. Right, he's not a nice guy. This is not a nice universe. This is the origin of grimdark, right? This is where people are working on a different spiritual level. And that's what I want to get into, really. I feel like this book really captured the sort of metaphysical, spiritual stuff really well. I'm looking forward to it, the next one, because there's going to be a lot more of that. And if you're not into that stuff, you're not into that sort of explorations of sort of religious themes, then you're probably not going to enjoy the next movie, because based on what I've seen in this book, in this movie, they are going to go heavily on that. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why Spice didn't have the prominence that it should have done in terms of the story, in terms of people's minds of why they're there, what's going on, because they concentrated more on the character development and the spiritual aspects of who he is and what's going on with him, and the sort of the fate of humanity, if you will. But Paul is a Mentat too. Yeah, exactly. Paul is a Mentat too, and that's why I think like the Mentats are sort of the results of Bene Gesserit's gene manipulation or selective breeding and so on. Earlier attempts, obviously they've been at it for centuries, if not thousands of years. Is it thousands of years? I think it is 4,000 years. Is that what they say? I can't remember if that's the right number or not. But they've been at it for a long time. So yeah, it's interesting. But is Paul the basis for 40kms? I wouldn't go that far, Maxim. I wouldn't go that far. It's more, I think they just took the general structure of the Dune universe and transposed it into 40k, used it as the sort of foundation of their generic science fiction universe, and then obviously they've built on it since then. But the sort of general foundation of the Dune universe they took, and little bits of tech, like las guns, glow globes, that sort of thing, space travel, how it's conceptualized in Dune as compared to 40k, I think are pretty similar. They're different to other kinds of science fiction. And you've got to remember, Dune was written at the time when you had every sort of science fiction generally was very much like Star Trek, like we're going to go off to new worlds and make friends with everybody. And whereas Herbert, I watched an interview where he's talking about this and he's saying, I wanted to make something that shows that humans are going to be human. I don't know whether he said this. Maybe I'm just making this up. This is my opinion. Let's say it's my opinion. Dune is a representation of humanity in the future that, unlike Star Trek, unlike Star Wars, of good people doing good things for good reasons, right? People doing exploration and bringing enlightenment and stuff like this. Dune shows humanity as it really is, conniving, self-interested, backstabbing, conspiratorial, self-interested, susceptible to bribery and corruption and perversion in some cases, as we know. And that's what Dune is. It's the accurate portrayal of humanity. Yeah, it's got its glorious moments. Yeah, it's got its great, it's people doing honourable good things. But it's also got pure evil. And, what do you think is a more accurate representation of what humanity is actually going to be like in 10,000 years? If we do go somewhere else from this rock we're on. What do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be something more akin to the Dune universe? If not, in structure, at least the themes of it, the nature of humanity. Or is it going to be something like Star Trek? Because I think it's probably going to be something like Dune. You're going to have nobles, even if they're not called nobles. You're going to have people being shat on by other more powerful parties. You're going to have warfare. You're going to have honour. You're going to have dishonour. You're going to have corruption. You're going to have all of these things that make up humanity. I mean, look around. Turn around and watch the news, right? You're going to have all of these things going on. It's not going to be Captain Kirk saving the Wombles or whatever it is he does. It's going to be Dune. I'm just taking a moment because that was like a super great speech I made. There you go. Let me have my last cigarette. Khan's the only good thing to start. Yeah, well, thank you. Coffee would be great. Thank you. Khan's the only good bit of Star Trek. All right. I said it. All right. Expanse nailed the... I don't know, man. I mean, it nailed the technology level, I think, definitely. But I don't know whether the characters themselves really represent how people would act. There's a lot of moments in those books and in that thing where I'm like, people wouldn't do that. No one would behave like that. I don't know. Let me have a cigarette while I collect myself. But how do we go on with the story? Dude, we already... Yeah, I know we do. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Luton. We already have that. But they don't use those words, right? We already have an elite class. We already, it already exists. Anyway. I thought you quit smoking. Me too. Me too. This is my last one. Literally, my last one. So, where do we go from the story? We go to Dune. Now, again, I was worried that in the current era, obviously, I thought it would be a bit too whingy, about the whole situation on Dune. But it was accurate. It was fair. It was good. It was strong. It was great, I felt like the Atreides come in there. It explained the situation well. Now, the one thing I don't think a normal viewer would have got, and I don't know whether it's important to the general story, is about, obviously, in the novels, there's a lot more emphasis on what Leto is trying to do, right? What is the Duke trying to do? Why has he accepted this poisoned chalice of Dune? And it's because he knows the Fremen can be used and built as a personal army, right? This is the truth. This is what's in the book. He knows that you've got this race of people, the Fremen, who are strong, who are not only physically strong, spiritually strong, and they are the perfect counter, and there's millions of them, and they are the perfect counter to the Emperor's own personal army. And I can never remember how to say the word. What's his personal army called? I want to say Justicars. They're not there. What are they called? Sardaukar. And the Sardaukar in this were pretty fucking sick, I have to say. When we met them on the planet, on the prison planet and stuff, brilliant, perfect. It showed what it needed to show without explaining that this is the Emperor's prison planet. This is where he recruits it. The Sardaukar live the life of royalty on their planet because they proved them. It doesn't have to do all that sort of stuff. Leto has almost no role in the book. No, exactly. No. But his plan does. We get that afterwards in the book. It's explained to us, like in the second part of the book, why he goes there. The plan is for them to build an army. Thank you. The plan is for them to build an army that is able to counter the power of the Emperor's legions, of Sardaukar. That's why they went there. It's said many times in the book. And we get a little bit of that, like, for instance, just before... And I knew it was happening as well. I was thinking, this is getting a bit slow. When's the attack going to happen? And then I saw Yuri, the traitor, come in and give him some sleeping pills. And I was like, it's on. I was ready. I was excited. Oh, the goof. Thank you, man. It's amazing how everyone is pleased with Dune, that it followed to the book and was great. We are used to letdowns. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I'm so happy with. It's not hard. Take the original source material and stick as closely to it as you can. And if you have to make changes, make wise changes. Don't force shit in there that no one wants to see, right? Just do good stuff. And like Lord of the Rings is the ultimate representation of this. They made a lot of changes. They cut a lot of stuff out, but it kept to the sort of themes of the book. It kept to the message of the book. And this is what Dune does. And I don't know, man. I think a lot of people are going to have trouble grasping some of the messages in this. Like, it might be a little bit too, I don't want to use the word highbrow, for your average movie viewer. And that's why I think they've done a good job on it, because they've made it so you can watch it just as a sort of generic science fiction thing if you're new to it. But if you're a fan, there's enough there to be like, yes, this is it. But thank you, The Goof. I appreciate the donation, man. He was based, Lawton. He was completely based. But yeah, we go through this just before the attack, just before the night of the attack. He turns to his wife, his concubine, of course. And he says, "I thought we had more time." That's enough. That's enough. If you've read the book, if you know the book, you know what he's talking about. You understand why he's looking at this, because he knows he's run out of time. He's running out of time. At least he doesn't know it's coming now, but he knows he's running out of time. He hasn't got much time. He needed to build up this Fremen army quicker. He needed to get spice production running quicker. This was the gamble he paid, because if he didn't accept Dune, the Emperor would have had he would have had to go into exile, like other noble houses had. The Emperor handed him a poisoned chalice, you know? There's a Foundation TV series. Are you I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. I'll have to look that up, man. That's passed me by. I didn't even know there was a Foundation TV series. No, of course. Yeah. I was actually impressed with it. They managed to do a good job. Not used to that from Hollywood. Yeah. Definitely. They did a great job, and I think this will send out a clear message to Hollywood. I hope of just do it right. Stop annoying people. Just do it right. But we'll see. Probably not. It'll probably fall on deaf ears. Quinn's Duke. Yeah, I know that guy. Yeah. I know the goof. I know. I've seen that guy. I'm not a big. Like I said, I only read the novel like 3 weeks ago. I am an expert now, obviously, because I've read the novel. And yeah, I'm going to go on to the other ones because I really like the universe and I want to know what happens. But in terms of the first novel, I think I've read it twice, so like I have got it down. It's really fresh in my mind, and that's why I really enjoyed this, because there's a lot of subtle things in there that if you're a fan of the book, you would pick up. But you know, it's not. As I was saying earlier in the stream, it's not obnoxiously explaining things to you. You know, you don't need that. They present things in a quick, simple way. You get the rules of the universe. You get the position of everybody. You get why people are doing what they're doing in a quick way. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So he has to accept this poison chalice of Dune, of control of Dune, because the Emperor's scared of him, because he's a threat to his power. That's the overall story of Dune. But what the Emperor doesn't know is that Paul exists, and Paul shouldn't exist. Paul shouldn't exist. His mother was only supposed to produce daughters, and the idea was for the Bene Gesserits, they didn't think that they were close yet to producing someone like Paul. And maybe he isn't actually the one, right? Maybe the prophecy isn't actually fulfilled. He's just the best example of what they've managed to produce yet. But the idea, of course, is that she was supposed to produce daughters, and their daughter of House... the daughter of House Atreides would marry the son of the heir of House Harkonnen, and that would ensure peace for another generation, basically, because they look into the future. They're able to glean things, you know, very much like an Eldar Farseer. I wonder where they got that from. They're able to sort of grasp these tendrils of potential futures, right? They're able to work that out. Now, whether that's psychic or just playing the odds, basically, of looking how things are going to play out. That's always, it's a little bit vague in the books that maybe it is that way. Although obviously the mind merger during the pregnancy thing obviously makes that quite clear that it's a psychic thing. But that's probably like the best example of psychic-y kind of powers. Whereas the rest of the time, it's kind of a little bit vague. Like it could just be like Paul's uber mind going down all the routes of possibility, because he can just calculate all the possibilities. So it's a bit of a mix in terms of, is it psychic? Is it like, this? Is it that? But Paul came one generation early. So yeah, exactly. Possibly. So obviously the Emperor's plans go awry, and that's what we're going to see in the second movie. Paul gathering this Fremen army of zealots who believe he is the chosen one. And whether Paul believes it or not, it doesn't matter. And that's one of the sort of tragic things about the books, because Paul is it's kind of fate. He can't escape his fate. He is stuck as this. And I think that's a very important thing of like, you can't escape what you are, if you get me. You are what you are. And, destiny has a big part in this. The Furies will not be denied. And, I feel like that's, that's the important part of the book. I really like that as a thing in the book, and I think it really captures that here really, really well. And Paul isn't a likable character, but it is because he's as well. You got to understand from this guy's position. He's stuck. He has no choice but to be what these people want him to be, because that's the only choice he's got, to go with the flow. That's it. He can't do anything else. And anything he wants to achieve, he has to embrace this identity, this existence as this holy leader to these tribes. And let's get on to the Fremen, because I think the standout performance in this, I was saying this to you, the one character that stood out was Stilgar. The guy who plays him, considering how little he's in the film, he is the standout performance. He comes in, he gosses on the thing. That's another thing that I feel like wasn't really tackled as well as it should be, the whole importance of water. And I think that probably the second movie will delve into that as they become part of the Fremen. I guess that'll be the logical place to put that stuff. But obviously in the novels, that comes a lot earlier, explaining the importance of water, the cultural importance, you must give us your water, all that sort of stuff. That's going to come in the second movie as they become part of the Fremen, as Paul becomes part of the Fremen. And so I think it was a bit like out of place when you see him gossing in cups and stuff like that. Like, because I think that was kind of unexpected, but it was funny and it was good how they did it. It's just, I feel like there's probably you needed some context to that wasn't there, if you get me. The importance of water, the importance of spitting, the importance of your bodily fluids and stuff like this, how it's holy to these people. It's not just a survival thing, it's a holy part of their faith. It's part of their culture on a spiritual level. It's important. And we didn't really get any context to that. He just comes in and gosses on there, and it's like, we accept that in the friendship it was given, which is pretty funny. It was good. But the Stilgar character himself was really good, especially later on. And I was wondering how they were going to do it, whether they were going to do it closely to the books, and they did when they meet the gang of Fremen in the caves, and they have the knife fight, which was great, And Stilgar, very subtle performance, very powerful. When he's fighting him. And Paul could have killed him multiple times. And Stilgar turns to the mother and says, is he playing with him? And she's like, no, he's never killed a man. And he just gives this look like he gets it. You know what I mean? Like he gets it. That's a powerful actor right there. That's a strong performance. Just very subtle, no words spoken. He just turns to him and turns back and he looks, and he has a look in his eye like, I understand. Like he doesn't have to say anything. The mother's it's perfect. The mother's just like, Paul's never killed a man. And he just gets it. He understands. And that knife scene was great, and I'm really glad that was in the book, because, I was worried it wasn't going to be, and it's a really powerful moment, and obviously it brings in play a lot of stuff later on, which I won't get into because you don't need to. But yeah, it was a powerful moment, and as well the sort of thing he has in the tent where when the vision he's having, saying, in order to live you have to take a life, something essentially like that, and there's a lot of truth in that. I think it's very powerful, very powerful. Very powerful, sort of important things to say these books have, and I feel like they're lacking in other places. So I'm really happy that this movie's got as much shit in it as it has, because it's really good. It's really good. I think we were all worried it was going to be crap, but it isn't. And I definitely want to have a repeat viewing of it. I watched it yesterday. Stilgar was great. Yeah, Stilgar was. It was definitely the sort of the most powerful. He was the most when he was on screen, he dominated the screen. You get me? He was a really well-performed character. And obviously in the books, Stilgar is great. And I mean, there's a couple of things like, when they're jumping out, when they're making the tea in the movie, right? And they jump out the sand and they're fighting the... what are they called again? What are they called? What are the Imperial Army called? I can't remember. Sardaukar. When the Sardaukar are... coming in, and the Sardaukar are pretty badass, right? Like, you got to understand, the Sardaukar are the elite. They're the most terrifying soldiers ever. And these Fremen are willing to go up against them. And obviously in the books, it's a lot more... They have an ambush, they have a fight. I think that's where he rescues Duncan, doesn't he? I think he meets Duncan. Like, in this movie, Duncan meets the chick pretending to be Dr. Kine. And she dies, obviously, and that's good. It's just, like, Dr. Kine's death has more meaning in the books, whereas in this, it's kind of meaningless. Like, she's dead. Okay, cool. Whereas in the books, his death has meaning, it has purpose, and it explains, it's built to his life work, what he's trying to achieve there, the mystery of who he is that we get as we're going through the book. Whereas now, it's just kind of nothing. She didn't have the gravitas, that's the thing. She wasn't good enough for it. It was a bad choice. That's the only bad casting choice, I would say. It's really bad. It wasn't awful. It wasn't very good. But anyway, she's dead now, so that's good. So, what was I going to say? What was I saying? Oh, yeah, so in the books, there's a great moment where they ambush this the Sardaukar force that's going after them, and they kill them all. And I think it's Duncan who says to him, "They were Sardaukar," and Stilgar's just like, "They were Sardaukar. Fantastic." He's like, "Yeah, they're great. You know, where we matched ourselves against Sardaukar and we killed them all. Fantastic." And there's a whole thing in the books with artillery. And again, this is the great thing about the universe, because the universe is built on grounded rules. So in a universe where you've got personal shields, where firearms don't work, right? Guns don't work. No one really has guns. And if you're watching it and you're wondering why they've got swords and stuff, it's because they've got personal shield technology. And the only way to kill someone is by the slow blade, right? Which I think is quite clever as well. It's like you can be fast, you can be strong, but you've got to be smart. And that means that you're going to produce like a warrior class of like people who are naturally skilled at that sort of thing, you know, to be fast, to be strong, but also subtle and clever with their swords. But when in a universe where you've got that, you're just not going to have firearms and things like this. You're going to go back to using swords and stuff because it's the most efficient way to kill someone. The most guaranteed way. That's what you're going to give soldiers. So that's why there's no weapons as such, guns, you know. But there is advanced technology, and in the books, the Baron commissions artillery to produce because he knows the remnants of the army. If they don't wipe them all out, they're going to flee to the mountains. So he commissions these artillery pieces in order to flatten these caverns and wipe them out. Now, they don't use artillery. It's like a rare thing because there's no need. Everybody's got personal shields. It don't work normally. But he's made them specifically for this eventuality. And that's what the Fremen also capture some of those pieces as well, which they use later. They go nuke. Yeah. The movie is too slow. Well, I'd understand that. But as a fan of the books, I don't think it was slow enough. But there we go. There we go. Beyond Dreams got it perfectly there. We were expecting Game of Thrones season 8, and we got season 2. So naturally, we are happy about Dune. Yeah, I think that about sums it up. Yeah, everybody's pretty happy with it, and I don't see anyone saying it's really bad. I mean, obviously, I can understand there might be a bit of slowness because there is a lot of sort of like, look across the desert, look at these dramatic backdrops, you know, all that sort of stuff. The music, but and I thought the music was a bit loud. I think it was a bit over the top, but it definitely sort of draws you in.
It wasn't a traditional Hans Zimmer sound.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't Hans Zimmer at all. The worst thing for me was the part 1 from the first scenes of the movie. It ruined the whole movie for me. Also, the combat was too min of the movie. What the fuck was it like? Where's the large battle? Yeah, I know, but it's kind of... You kind of have to get things moving, I guess, because they spent too long going across the desert. You know, they got to make up the time. But yeah, that's... So yeah, obviously we get to the end and I've discussed the scene in the tent, which I think is crucial to understanding Paul and what he's going through. And it wasn't too much, but it was enough for the casual viewer to understand, I think. And for someone who knows the lore and knows the universe, it was enough for us to be satisfied that it is staying true to what's going on. Again, just the surprising part of it is the lack of emphasis put on spice. But again, you've got a lot to cover in this movie. You know, you've got all the different characters, all the spiritual elements, all the sort of universe building. I think it did a good job in general on all of these things. Some better than others. Like I said, the lack of emphasis on spice is surprising to me. And that was the main thing, speaking to people afterwards who don't know the universe as well as me. Yeah, they were saying this, like, didn't really understand that. So that was surprising, but I didn't clock that myself because I knew it didn't need to be said to me. But they needed that to be said to them a bit more, I think. And we'll see, I guess, with what's going to go on in the second movie, I'm guessing that sort of thing will be emphasised more. The Fremen's culture will be emphasised more and stuff like that. Now, let's talk about the death of the Duke. Oh, thank you. I need a drink. Oof. Now, in the book, obviously, he gets carried back to... Is it Sinti Prime? Whatever. I can't remember the name. The Harkonnen homeworld. Now, this, obviously, in the book, he's got the tooth thing, obviously, the tooth poison that the traitor gave him. And obviously, that's the one thing with the traitor thing I never understood. I guess it is just because they broke his programming, which is something that doesn't get mentioned as well. That's an element that doesn't get mentioned. But if you think about it, it doesn't really need to be mentioned, right? But, yeah, that isn't mentioned. That's completely forgotten. All that sort of imperial conditioning and all that sort of stuff. And I always thought it was nice in the books that it was kind of like, the reason he does the tooth thing is him, the part of him that's loyal, the part of him that's still got the imperial conditioning or whatever, trying to fight against the betrayal. I don't know. I'm maybe not explaining that right, but that's how I envisaged it. But anyway, the tooth thing happens, yeah, because he knows he's going to die, but he's still going through to it because he has to go through with it. If you get me, he knows he's going to get killed, and they're lying to him, but he can't stop himself. So he has to. So he does this as a way of, it's the part of him that's resisting it, trying to do something. Get your friends for something nice. Thank you, the goof. You're a lovely man. You're a lovely man. I appreciate that, dude. Thank you.
That's kind.
No. This is the thing. Now in the books, Baron. Thank you again, goof. Appreciate it seriously. Baron Harkonnen does never go to Dune. I don't think he does, except in the end. Yeah, he doesn't go to Dune at this point. They take the Baron. They take the Duke back to the Baron. And that's where they do the interrogation and stuff. Much like in the first movie. The first movie is a bit more on point with the beats of the book. But why is the scientist a chick? I don't know. I think that was the worst casting choice. Don't get me started on that. I was like, who's this? She's just another gravity. Like, she's putting on their uniforms and stuff. It's like, it ruined it for me, that bit. It didn't ruin it for me at all. It's fine. But it was an odd choice to make. But anyway. What was I going to say? Yeah, so in the book, he goes back to the other home, to the Harkonnen homeworld, and that's where they have the interrogation. Now, in the book, the Harkonnen Barons, the big fat dude, his assistant, his mentat, his advisor, is much more of a prominent character. He's the one who's organised this betrayal and sorted all this out, you get me? And obviously, he's a much more prominent character. In this, he's just generic evil sidekick. You don't really get anything from him, and he dies pretty quickly. Which is fine. I understand you've got to make time, and cutting that character out is probably fine because he just dies instantly. Even if you went by the book, you build this character who's quite an interesting character and stuff like this, and then he instantly dies. He instantly dies. So I can understand why you cut that out because you don't really need that in a movie. But yeah, he's obviously in the book. He's a lot more prominent. So in the book. The Leto dude, he's all confused. He's all like, oh, he's swimming in and out of consciousness and stuff like this. And he thinks he's speaking to the Baron, but what he's really speaking to is the Baron, to the Baron's assistant, the evil schemer who's worked all this out, who's done all this. And then he gasses him. But it's not the whole room. It's just the one guy. Whereas they changed this with the Baron in front of him. Now, I don't know why his shield worked. That doesn't make sense. He should be dead, right? If everybody else died, he should be dead. I don't care how much like Bram Stoker's Dracula he is, and he floats up to the ceiling and hides, right? That doesn't make sense. Like, you didn't need to do that. I don't know why they overcomplicated it with that. That's like overthinking it. You get me? Like, that's weird. You didn't need that. But I guess the problem is they hadn't made that character a character, so there would be no. It wouldn't be an interesting death, if you get me. That's what I kind of think. But yeah, very interesting. And that fat dude he's really disturbing. And if you've read the books, obviously you know all the horror show that's going on there. But yeah, I think they captured it without showing it. You got to remember, this film's like a 12A. It's 12. I didn't think that. I thought it was like a 15 at least. But considering it's a 12, there's a lot of stuff in there. But because it's a 12, some of the stuff gets lost. But otherwise, you know, it was good. But again, that's probably mostly what I've got to say about it. I mean, I hope you enjoy it. If you haven't watched it yet, go and watch it. If you're a fan of the books, it's definitely faithful to the books. And you'll probably, if you watch it, you're probably like me, looking forward to what they're going to do in the second book. Because there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of spicy stuff in there, and I'll be interested to see how they tackle that. Because the next book kind of has to be a bit. It probably has to be 15. You get me? I don't think you can get away with the second book as a 12. But again, there's going to be a lot of big-brained stuff going on in the second part of that book in terms of the psychic stuff, and all that sort of thing. I don't know how they're going to tackle it. I'll be interested to see how they're going to tackle it, because they've done this in a very mature, very interesting way, and I want to see what they do in the second part. So definitely, yeah. So people fighting with a shield actually run low enough. No, well, that's what I mean. Like the idea of the shield is it's something fast can't get through. So oxygen, gas, and stuff still can. You get me? That's kind of why he gave him a gas thing in his tooth, because he knew, like in the books, he knows that no personal shield is going to stop that. Whereas in this, it seems like the shield kind of stops him from dying, which doesn't make sense. So that's odd. But again, I think the reason is it's not interesting enough to have this random sidekick who we don't really know anything about. We've seen like twice, who hasn't really said anything. He's not a powerful character, so they have to kind of make it more interesting. That scene where Leto kills himself, and they can't use that guy because he's not interesting. But there's other ways around it, because you've kind of broken the rules of the universe a little bit with the shield thing, and with him floating on the ceiling and hiding from the gas, I presume, because the gas, like, it's a bit weird. Like, you didn't need to do it. It didn't need to be like that. But that's the only thing that I find really odd. Everything else is kind of sound fine. What would I give this movie? I'd give it a 7.58, maybe even 9 in some aspects, but yeah, definitely like an 8, I'd say. Around an 8, yeah. But yeah, if you've never read the books, I think now's the time, because I think this is going to be quite popular. So if you want to be the wise person at work who knows all the stuff, this is the time to do it, you know. If you want to relive Game of Thrones where you know what's going to happen, be the arsehole at work who knows all the tossing and turning. Dune 2021 was not that good of a movie. Well, I disagree. Type Bright. I think this was like a really accurate representation of the Dune books, and maybe that's just personal taste. But I personally thought it was really good. And having read the novel, I feel like it was really accurate, and I'm looking forward to the second one. And if you've never read the novels, I suggest you do, because I think that'll add a lot to it. You know, I'm not saying you need to read the novels to think this film's good. That's not what I'm saying. If you don't like it, you don't like it, right? You might read Dune and not like the novel. People say that, you know. Some people don't like it. It's too long-winded. But I really did. I thought it was great, and I think there's some really, really interesting concepts in this, and I think the movie really reflected it really well. You gave it a 1? Well, fair enough, Type Bright. Best sci-fi this year? Yeah, definitely. Super abuse. Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, like, I don't know if you've read the novels or not. I suggest you read the novels, and maybe that'll, or maybe not. Maybe this isn't for you. That's just the way it is, you know. But for me personally, this was great, and I think for a lot of people, this is really good. Type Bright. Well, yeah, I know that, dude. It's a movie. I mean, what are you going to do? You have to make. If you're writing a screenplay of this novel, you could make 10 novels. You can make 10 movies out of this novel. You're trying to encapsulate what 12 hours, 13 hours of book into 2.5 hours, 3 hours of a movie. Yeah, things are going to get cut out. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's just the way it is. You can get an audiobook. Yeah, I got the audiobook for Dune as well, and it was pretty decent. Although it's really weird. Like, it cuts between different voice actors all the time. It's like there's 2 teams of voice actors doing different chapters. It's odd. But yeah. Any movie we still got is great. Yeah. And like I was saying, Stilgar is my standout character. That guy does a fantastic job. He really captures the screen, overpowers it massively. But yeah. That's pretty much all I got to say anyway. I'm back now. Expect content soon. I'll be cranking stuff out and doing more stuff as we go along. Thank you for your continued support. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll be back again with more stuff soon. So yeah, fantastic. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. If you've never read the book, go read the book. And if you're into 40k and stuff like this, you should like it. Not everybody's the same though. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with you if you don't like it. But you know, yeah, you'll enjoy it. Well, yeah, Watley the Wizard. Yeah, listen or read, don't watch. I understand, but what I'd say is, at the worst, you can treat this movie like a good way of bringing particular scenes from the book to life, I guess, is what I'd say. Even if you don't like the movie as such, in terms of what it does bring, at the least, I'd say you got to be able to appreciate bringing Dune, like the vision of Dune, to life, and some of these character moments, which are pretty accurate to the book, you know, and just to be able to see it, right? But again, it's all down to personal taste in the end. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But I think this is a solid 8 for me. This was probably my favourite movie of the year, and I recommend completely. But anyway, I'll see you later. Cheers for the stream. Yeah, cheers, lads. And again, like appreciate your support and for you carrying on watching. And I'll bring out more stuff soon. Like I say, I'm going to branch out into a few things that aren't Warhammer as we go along, but still Warhammer stuff as well. But yeah, stay well, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. All right, ta-ra, have a good one, bye-bye.